I think when most people think of New Jersey, they don't think of farming communities. I think most people have this image of New Jersey as this incredibly, densely populated state, which it is. Things like industrial parks, and, urban sprawl. In the Pine Barrens, we see a much older version of New Jersey still in existence. It's just kind of a unique space that we want to preserve.
So, what do you guys like about the Pine Barrens?
I just like how unique it is. Like, it's one of the most unique places in the world, really. And the fact that it's right in South Jersey is like super accessible. It's really cool.
I just think they're really fun and beautiful and just amazing to walk through.
Just like the quiet, you get to get away from all the noise and the birds in the distance. Very nice.
So we want to kind of preserve both, the natural elements, the historic elements, and the contemporary cultural elements.
The New Jersey Pine Barrens stretch across 1.1 million acres of the Garden State, making up roughly a fifth of its land. Its population is sparse and rural, with paved highways giving way to dirt paths and trees reclaiming railroads. But that doesn't make the Barrens boring. Despite its name, the forest is far from barren. It teems with life, densely populated with cedar and pine trees that house all manner of flora and fauna. The vibrant call of the eastern whippoorwill bird breaks the silence of ancient bogs, while in hidden corners, carnivorous plants like the purple pitcher and sundew lure insects with glistening traps. These are only a few of the hundreds of species that exist through dense vegetation and the remains of once thriving industrial towns. The abundant life is in spite of acidic and sandy soil with nutrient-poor water that makes growing anything in the Pine Barrens difficult. That didn't stop people from trying, however. When the unforgiving soil proved to be unsuitable for farming most things, the industry pivoted to iron. Throughout the late 1700s to mid-1800s, iron was the Pine Barrens' bread and butter. Towns like Atzine and Batstow popped up across the region to take advantage of the abundance of tree-based charcoal fuel and bog iron ore.
They made wheels here.
They made wheels?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Kind of small. Though they thrived for some time, a number of factors caused them to all but disappear by the late 1800s.
People, in the 18th century kind of assumed that bog ore would replenish faster than it really did. They were kind of assuming that it was on like a 30-year replenishment cycle. It was really closer to like an 80-year replenishment cycle. So once they ran through, most of those natural resources, that was one of the factors that led to the iron furnace eventually shutting down.
If we went back 200 years, you would have worker homes, the iron furnace, there was a cotton mill by the 1860s. Essentially, Atzine was 4 times the size that it is today. And all of these trees would have been cut down because the main fuel source for that iron furnace was charcoal. So you would cut down all these pine trees and cedar trees and make charcoal out of it. And you would need about 2 tons of charcoal to make around 3,000 tons of iron every month.
towns that failed in the Pine Barrens in the 18th and 19th centuries were the ones that overextended their resources. Towns that survived were the towns that were the most responsible with their resources.
This exodus left behind ghosts of once thriving communities. Abandoned or sparsely populated, the remains of houses, churches, schools, and other indicators of society began to fade back into the forest. But without observed life beyond the wayward vandal or explorer, the line between reality and myth begins to blur.
We are on the hunt for the New Jersey Devil, and I think we just found its home.
We're gonna find it.
We're coming.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, we used to go to New Jersey Devils hockey games. And I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, why are the New Jersey Devils called the Devils? And he told me the whole story of how, this, mythical creature with a horse-like head, and it's got wings, and, the forked devil tail, how it would go around terrorizing, southern Jersey down in the Pine Barrens. Back as a kid, I'd always be told about how the Jersey Devil was a vicious killer. It terrorized southern Jersey and the residents, and it would kill animals and crops. And the reason the Pine Barrens are so barren, is because of the Jersey Devil. Nothing grows there, nothing lives there.
The other strange occurrences around the Barrens attributed to the New Jersey Devil may be the fault of any number of other creatures. But, in the absence of observers, who is to say? Ghosts and other creatures of the underworld are as much a part of the Pine Barrens as the trees themselves. Their perceived presence arises from a disconnection between the Pine Barrens' lively industrial past and its depopulated present. But there is another specter haunting the Pine Barrens.
Atlantic white cedar was one of the dominant forest types from Louisiana to Maine along the coast. New Jersey had 100,000 acres of cedar originally. The Atlantic white cedars, the original forested trees, were 500, 600, 700 years old and 6 to 8 feet across. They were wiped out by the Revolutionary War, by the British, but they grew back. And then the second generation of them was wiped out by about the Civil War. They grew back again, but they're not growing back anymore because of a number of reasons. Among them, climate change, beavers, and especially deer.
That's Dr. Emil DeVito, the manager of science and stewardship at New Jersey Conservation. The tree he's talking about, the Atlantic white cedar, are known for their durability and resistance to rot, allowing them to thrive in the harsh environment of the Pine Barrens. Some consider Atlantic white cedar forests to be the kidneys of the Pine Barrens. These forests are responsible for filtering pollutants in water, storing atmospheric carbon, and regulating the area's hydrology. Beyond this, cedar swamps provide homes to a variety of New Jersey's endangered species, like the timber rattlesnake, Hessel's hairstreak, and the tiny saw-whet owl that live exclusively in these areas. And while these trees might have once covered 100,000 acres of the Pine Barrens, today they only cover a small fraction. At least, the living ones do.
We're in the forest, there's nothing around us, so we're just gonna wander around, try and find a better vantage point to see all of the dead trees, because there's like twigs and shit on the ground, and then there's just like sticks in the air.
The once abundant Atlantic white cedar trees are now a rare and precious resource.
That's why there's the concern about Atlantic white cedar trees, because they're used to make shingles. They're a more unique habitat. There's tens of thousands of acres of pine trees and maple trees and other kinds of trees. They're not that valuable.
Growing in marshes, swamps, and along riverbanks, these trees are used to living with the water. But unsustainable logging, and especially saltwater damage, is proving deadly.
What happened here during Hurricane Sandy in 2013, the salt water came up so high in this area, and it stayed for so long that the salt water killed the roots of many of the cedar trees. That's one way that they're dying, is that in big storms, the salt water is coming up high and getting into places that it seldom ever gets into because of both the rising sea level and the stronger storms.
The salt kills the trees slowly. First, the leaves fall. Then, the bark peels away. But the trunks remain, skeletal and pale. Throughout the Pine Barrens, the corpses of once living cedar trees remain long after their death, forming ghost forests that span several acres. Oh, it's like very distinct. Ghost forests exist throughout the world, a broad and alluring term for a phenomenon with a plurality of causes. While the Penn Swamp ghost forest that DeVito refers to is a consequence of rising sea levels, others are formed from sinking land and even flooding caused by beavers as nature proceeds to reclaim what humanity has once again abandoned. A ghost forest's size makes them unavoidable. Where fire leaves streaks of black across a landscape that persists until the next heavy rainfall, ghost forests aren't going anywhere. In fact, they tend to grow as the salt, or beavers, take on more and more land. Left behind is a physical reminder of loss, a mixed signal. You can see the forest, but the life that was once there is no more, and it's not coming back.
The coastal stuff you can't do anything about, because salt water, you can't do anything about salt water, and you can't do anything about sea level rise.
These signals of death are also signals of change. Just as the ghost towns of the Pine Barrens signaled shifts in industry that left the region and its inhabitants behind, these forests signal a climate future that irrevocably changes the landscape of the Pine Barrens. Ghost forests are among the clearest signals of climate change that we can see with our own eyes. Silent, ominous, expanding. These eerie landscapes are not just a glimpse of a possible future. They're happening now. Across North Carolina's Albemarle-Pamlico Peninsula, an area the size of Washington, D.C. has turned to a ghost forest in just 30 years. And the spread is accelerating. As forests die, the environment transforms. Wetlands once rich in life shift to marshes. Carbon once trapped in forest soils begins to move, with dead trees acting like filtered straws, releasing greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Saving these forests is not just about preserving a landscape. It's about holding the line against the sea, about defending communities, and about giving future generations more than just a memory of what existed. The past of the Pine Barrens shows us a future we may not be ready to face. A future shaped not by what we remember, but by what we fail to save.
Once the Pine Barrens are gone, we can't get them back.
In protecting it, we safeguard not just a landscape, but a living memory. One that can still thrive for generations to come.
Let's go.
Oh, we're organized by height.
Aw, cute.
Zero thoughts. If we listen to the cedars, we hear it clearly. Survival is possible, but only if we act before the whispers turn to silence.